Right, let's talk about Celtic. Because finally, we've got a match worth getting properly excited about. A performance that didn't just tick the boxes, but actually brought a bit of joy back into watching this team. For once, it wasn't about grinding through 90 minutes and trying to pull positives from a flat outing. It was proper football. Goals flying in, confidence flowing, and above all, that buzz you get when things start clicking again. Celtic are through to the semi-finals of the League Cup, and there's still a bit of road to travel before lifting a trophy, but let's not downplay how important that is. This is a club that thrives on silverware, that needs the adrenaline of big nights and the pressure of knockout football. So being just one game away from a final, that matters a lot. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm a bit hungover. Went hard at an engagement party last night, and right now I'm feeling it in every corner of my body. But the match was so lively, so entertaining, that it jolted me back to life. It wasn't just a win, it was a performance. And when Celtic actually decide to show up like that, you remember why we all fell in love with watching them in the first place. The name on everyone's lips right now? Sebastian Tanaki. And let's be real, it's happening quickly. 2 games in. And already you can feel the fans warming to him in a way that doesn't happen often with new signings. Especially ones that came in without much fanfare. No big expectations, no real pressure, just a lad brought in to add a bit of depth and hopefully offer something different. But he's not just offered something different, he's exploded onto the scene. The thing about Tanaki is, he's raw. You can see that. There's still parts of his game that need refining, and you're not going to sit here and say he's the complete article. But that's part of the magic, isn't it? Watching a player with obvious talent, who plays with freedom, with instinct, it's refreshing. He's fearless. He takes people on. He commits defenders, and he brings this positive energy that bleeds into the rest of the front line. When you've got a winger like that, someone who's direct, who's hungry, who makes things happen, it changes the whole dynamic. Suddenly your attackers aren't playing safe. They're daring. They're driving forward. And that's been missing far too often this season. Too many sideways passes. Too many spells of possession with no bite. But Tanaki, he plays like someone who couldn't care less about playing it safe. He's here to make a statement. I don't want to overhype it. We've all seen players burst onto the scene, get a couple of flashy games under their belt, and then fade away into obscurity. But this feels different. There's a grit to his game that suggests it's not just sparkle. There's substance behind the shine. And already, I'm all in. I've bought the stock. I'm strapped in for the ride. And it wasn't just him. The whole team looked lifted. You could feel it from the opening minutes. A sense of purpose that's been missing. A hunger to not just win, but dominate. And I get it. It's Partick Thistle. A championship side. You should be putting a few past them. That's the minimum standard. But even with that in mind, the performance was still a level above what we've seen recently. This wasn't a team going through the motions. This was a team that looked like they were enjoying their football again. Benjamin was brilliant in the first half, 2 assists in 2 minutes, and more importantly, he looked confident, sharp on the ball, willing to take initiative. That's been a real issue lately. That final third spark just hasn't been there. The crosses haven't been landing. The set pieces have been wasteful, and the movement off the ball has been static. But today, things looked sharper, more fluid, like the players actually believed something would happen when they attacked. Even Young had a solid game, and that's not something we've been able to say often. He looked dangerous. He was unlucky not to grab a goal, but he was involved, he was lively, and he seemed to benefit from the energy that Tanaki was bringing. You could see the domino effect. One attacker plays with belief, and it spreads. The second half? No drop-off. That's the key. You're 2-0 up at the break against a side like Partick, and it's easy to take your foot off the gas. We've seen it before. Start knocking the ball about, lose the intensity, let the game drift. But not this time. Celtic came out with the same fire. The same drive to score more, to entertain, to push for 4 or 5. And that's exactly what they did. Tanaki grabbed a goal, McKinn scored as well, and the build-up to those goals was just quality football. Especially the final one. Balajisha did brilliantly to win the ball back, drive forward, and set things up. For someone who only got about 20 minutes on the pitch, he left a proper impression. He looked hungry, like he had something to prove. That's what you want from your subs, not just filling in minutes, but making a case for more. And look, there were mistakes here and there. Scales had a moment or two where he switched off. A few slack passes in midfield. A couple of careless touches at the back. But honestly, nothing to lose sleep over. Because overall, this was a team that looked well drilled, switched on, ready for the challenges ahead. And that's exactly what you need going into these next few weeks. You want to see a Celtic side that isn't just relying on individual brilliance or moments of magic. You want to see a unit, a team that's connected, that knows what it's doing, that has a plan. Because it's not just about domestic games now, we've got Europe to think about. And in Europe, you don't get away with being disorganized. You need cohesion, discipline, but also that spark of unpredictability. And maybe, just maybe, Tanaki is going to be the one who brings that to the table. Seeing Kieran Tierney get a full 90 minutes was massive as well. That's been a big question mark recently, whether he could stay fit, whether he could handle a full game. And today he did. Looked solid. Still not quite at his peak, but miles better than he was at the start of the season. And to be fair, it was needed. If we're going to rely on him in the bigger matches ahead, he needs minutes. He needs rhythm. And the best way to get that is by playing. No more wrapping players in cotton wool. They need to be match fit. And then, just when you think the night's winding down, the semi-final draw drops, and it's Rangers. Hampden Park. Old rivals, big stakes, and a chance to put right what went wrong just a few weeks ago at Ibrox. You couldn't script it better. And I'll be honest with you, that's exactly who I wanted Celtic to get. Because let's be real, if you're trying to build momentum, if you're trying to send a message to the rest of the country and get your season properly rolling, there's no better way than knocking Rangers out of a cup at a national stadium. I get it, some folk would have preferred an easier path, maybe a Motherwell or St. Mirren, but for me, this is ideal. Rangers are sitting 11th in the league. Yes, 11th. And whether they're going through a crisis or not, the pressure on them right now is massive. There's no hiding. If you're Celtic, you want that game. You want to go and tear into them while they're down. But it can't just be about emotion or revenge. This needs to be calculated, precise. Because as much as Rangers are struggling, it's still a derby, it's still a semi-final, and it's still a game where one mistake can kill your cup hopes. We've seen it before. You dominate possession, you create more chances, and then boom, one lapse at the back, and you're out. So if we're going to take care of business, we need to bring the same attitude, the same intensity that we showed against Partick, but cranked up to 11. The thing about playing Rangers at this stage is it forces Celtic to take themselves seriously. There's no cruising through or assuming the result will come. Every player knows they've got to show up. And based on what we saw in that last match, there's finally reason to believe we can do that. This doesn't feel like hope for the sake of hope. This feels like something building. But between now and then, there's work to do. Big games ahead, league points to collect, and more minutes needed from key players. And that's where the likes of Tierney's 90 minutes come into play. Because we're going to need the whole squad firing if we're going to compete on all fronts. You can't be chopping and changing and hoping for miracles. You need structure. You need form. You need fitness. And for the first time in a while, it feels like we're starting to get there. Still, it's impossible to ignore how much of this shift came down to the energy in the final third. Not just Tanaki, but the whole front line looked alive. That urgency, that willingness to take players on, to stretch the defense, to press from the front, it changes everything. Football becomes fun to watch again. And fun football usually leads to winning football. The players feed off it, the fans feed off it, and suddenly there's life in the team. McKinn getting on the score sheet was another big plus. He's a player who's had to bide his time, and when you finally get your chance in the first team, you have to take it. That finish, and the movement before it, showed real sharpness. It wasn't just being in the right place at the right time. It was timing his run, reading the space, and being clinical. That's what you want to see. And it's a message to the rest of the squad too. There's competition now. If you're not doing your job, someone's coming in and doing it better. Same goes for Balajisha. Came off the bench, gave 20 strong minutes, pressed like a madman, and showed he's not content just to sit there waiting for scraps. That's how you build a winning team. With players who are hungry, who take their chances, and who push those ahead of them to stay sharp. You could feel the collective lift, everyone raising their level just a bit more, and that's exactly the kind of atmosphere you need if you're going to survive a packed schedule. And I know, there's always the temptation to get carried away after a performance like this, especially when it's been such a dry run of form lately. But even with the necessary pinch of salt, even knowing it was Partick Thistle, this felt like a proper step forward. Not a fluke, not a one-off. a sign of the team turning a corner. Because it's not just the scoreline. It's the way we played. The control, the aggression, the sharpness in transition, all things we've been crying out for week after week. Set pieces looked better. That's not something we've been able to say much this season. The delivery was cleaner, the positioning in the box was smarter, and most importantly, we looked like we believed we could score from them. That kind of intent makes a difference. And when you've got someone like Benjamin swinging balls in with precision, you need players making the runs to match. That's what we got today. Everything felt just a bit more professional. Like we'd remembered who we are and how we're supposed to play. There's still things to work on. Of course there are. You don't fix a shaky start to the season with one good outing. But if this is the standard we're going to hold ourselves to moving forward, then there's plenty to be optimistic about. Because when Celtic want to play, when they find that spark, they're as dangerous as any team in the league. And with players like Tanaki settling in, bringing freshness and unpredictability, it gives everyone else room to breathe and play their game. It's also about rhythm. Football's all about rhythm. One good result isn't enough. You need to string together performances, build that belief, and carry it into every match. League, Cup, Europe. That's where the real test lies. Consistency. Can we show up like this against better opposition? Can we bring this level away from home on a wet Wednesday night? That's what separates teams that win trophies from teams that just have potential. So for now, we celebrate the win, we celebrate the performance, but we don't lose focus. Because Rangers are waiting. And there's no hiding in that one. That's going to be a fight. A mental battle as much as a physical one. And if we want to lift that cup, if we want to walk into that final knowing we earned it, then we've got to be ready for war. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In Glasgow this week, the chatter around Parkhead has reached fever pitch, as Celtic are said to have pulled off a move that few had genuinely expected. Word from inside the club suggests that Josh Doig, the young Scottish left-back currently making a name for himself abroad, is set to arrive as the newest reinforcement for the Hoops' defensive line. While no official unveiling has yet taken place, the rumor has spread like wildfire among supporters, carried through pubs, message boards, and late-night whispers outside the stadium gates. The story goes that Celtic's recruitment team have long admired Doig's energy, his ability to surge down the flank, and his defensive awareness that belies his age. Having left Scotland to test himself on foreign soil, the fullback's development has been followed closely, and now it appears that the time has come for him to don the green and white hoops. If true, it would mark a significant coup for the club, strengthening a position that has occasionally looked thin when injuries and suspensions have piled up. The timing of the news has also raised eyebrows. Celtic are in the midst of a demanding campaign, juggling domestic duties with European ambitions, and depth across the back line has been one of the manager's most pressing concerns. For many fans, the prospect of a homegrown talent returning from abroad to contribute at such a crucial juncture feels like a narrative too good to ignore. Still, with no photographs of pen meeting paper, it remains, at least for now, something between anticipation and imagination. What cannot be denied is the sense of excitement. Doig represents the kind of player supporters crave. Young, hungry, and with a style of play that echoes the tradition of Celtic fullbacks marauding forward while never shirking defensive duties. The buzz around this potential signing may prove to be nothing more than smoke in the air, but the thought of Josh Doig tearing down the left wing at Celtic Park has already lit up conversations across the east end of Glasgow. And in football, sometimes the rumor is just as thrilling as the reality waiting to unfold. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.